COVID-19 recovery, helping Hoosiers recover financially, physically, mentally, and socially through services provided by Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Services include energy assistance, child care, family support, education, training programs, transitional housing, and food assistance. COVID-19 recovery.
Hi, I'm Margot Ward. I'm on the board for Community Action Greater Indianapolis.
And I'm Kelly Vaughn of WHMB TV 40, and we'd like to welcome you to COVID-19 recovery, where we're trying to get through this pandemic, and we have lots of information, solutions, advice, just to keep you updated on what's happening, because Margot, it changes so much.
Well, yeah, it does.
And so we're here to keep you up to date and here to help us understand what's going on with vaccines, because we're in the midst of turning this thing around, perhaps, with folks getting their vaccinations. Dr. Katasha Butler, she is a doctor of pharmacy, and she is the medication use and regulatory compliance coordinator for Eskenazi Health here in Indianapolis. Welcome, Dr. Butler, to COVID-19
Hi, good
recovery.
afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Wow, the last time I talked to you, I think at that time, I think we were just starting the campaign to vaccinate people. So where are we now, especially when it comes to vaccinations for children?
Right. So, Kelly, the last time we talked, we were right at the start. I likened the COVID vaccine to like rare gold. Everybody was wanting to get it. It was very scarce. We didn't know what production would look like. And now here we are. The Pfizer vaccine has gotten approval for use in children 12 and above. However, we have definitely seen a decrease in the demand. Right now, there's enough vaccine to go around for anybody basically who wants to be vaccinated at this time. So the demand has slowed down significantly. But as we open up our world even more, I think, people are just making some different considerations about what they want to do for themselves and their families.
Okay. So when you talk about the demand is down, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's vaccinated, right? In terms of people lining up to get it, there are fewer people lining up to get it.
Absolutely. Way less people. When we first got started, and we started at Eskenazi, we started vaccinating at the end of December. It was constant, nonstop. Everybody was wanting to get appointments, and we just don't see that same demand right now for our vaccination pod. And that trend is basically par for the course everywhere.
Okay.
Would you say that would be anything to do with fears and myths that have been doing the rounds? And how do we approach that?
Right, absolutely. I was thinking about this as I was preparing for what you may ask me. And I think back to when I was in elementary school, we had to get vaccinations just to attend school, to play in any organized sports. And our parents took us to our checkups. We got these vaccinations, no questions asked. And we were able to, participate in school or these organized sports. You couldn't do it without it. Now, with the advent of the internet, anybody's opinion can go far and wide, whether it's accurate or not, whether the information is founded or not, and everybody is becoming conspiracy theorists. And so I think that has led to the mass distrust, the questioning of what's going on, why should we do it? I think in our pursuit of our individual freedoms, we don't think about those vaccinations that were required for us to attend school or play organized sports. like polio and whooping cough and things like. We don't want those things to come back. And measles, there was even a slight uptick in measles cases because of anti-vaccination sentiment. But we don't really want those things to come back in the name of personal freedoms and the choice of what we want to do. We think we do, but we don't really know what life is like with those particular diseases. And so I think COVID being brand new, it falls along the same lines. You know, there has to be something to be done because this is affecting people worldwide. There are over 590,000 deaths in the United States alone, for people dying from COVID. And so I think that something has to be done. Do I think we need to require everybody to get the vaccine? No, I don't. But I do think people need to take some serious considerations about what is best for the health of them and their family.
Okay. So the theories out there, or the fallacies, or the myths, and I know what we were talking off the air, one was it affects your DNA. What else have you heard, Margot?
Yes, yeah, it somehow affects the DNA. If you haven't had children, it'll be passed on to the children or something like that.
Yeah, or the chip one. It has a chip in it.
There's a whole lot of it, yeah.
There's no chips. You know, people worried about being tracked. We're being tracked already every day. There's cameras everywhere. We're on Facebook.
Preach, Dr. Butler.
So I tell people who have concerns about that, well, I'm already in the matrix, and so, but there are no chips in the vaccine. As far as it messing with your DNA, that is not accurate either. This particular Pfizer vaccine, which is safe for children, what it does is when you get the shot, it injects a messenger RNA that basically tells your body how to make a special spike protein. This is the same spike protein that is on the coronavirus. So before you contract the actual virus, your body knows how to make these proteins and thus know how to attack it when it enters your body. So once you are fully vaccinated, if you were to come in contact with the real COVID-19 virus, your body already knows what to do to combat it. So that is how the mRNA vaccines work. That is how Pfizer works. And it is not altering any DNA in your body.
Okay. Of course, though, with the one, was it Johnson & Johnson? There was an issue initially early on with blood clots. What's the latest on that? Is that something we should still be concerned about?
Right. Well, you know, I think anybody should be aware of what potential side effects that could happen. As a pharmacist, when I heard these reports, and I believe it was halted out of an abundance of caution, which, you know, this was a speedier process than we are used to. And so they had to halt it to see what was going on. But the first thing that I thought of as a pharmacist was, what about birth control pills? Birth control pills cause clots in female patients every day of the week. And sometimes it can be fatal. Like, these are serious side effects. Birth control pills are still on the market. And so, you know, there are going to be side effects and one-offs. You have to look at it in the grand scheme of things. Out of how many doses administered is this happening? And you have to make the best decision for yourself.
You make a very good point that there are a lot of side effects to a lot of things. And when you look at how many people have died as a result of COVID-19, not to mention what's been going on in India. And that's where, I mean, I understand when people are skeptical about it, but then when I look around the people around me who have passed away, who I know personally, or when I see what's going on in India, it's like, hey, baby, it's a chance you take. And I'm thinking I'm going with it because it's the lesser, much lesser than the two evils. I don't know what you think, Margot. What do you think?
I agree. And that is, everybody's arguing about, it's not science, it's not this, it's not that. Yeah, it's science. The facts are there. Those people are dying. They have died, and they're going to die if we're not protected.
Wow.
Right, absolutely. And it has personally impacted my own family. I've lost my uncle earlier this year to coronavirus. He was a young father of 4. And that shouldn't have happened to him. And so I'm like you, what's the risks versus the benefits? And if the risks do not outweigh the benefits, then again, I believe science. And, I know people die from coronavirus. I don't know anyone personally who has died from a vaccination. That doesn't mean that it could never happen or it doesn't happen. However, I'd rather take my chances because I don't want to be hospitalized on a vent for something that I could have prevented.
And I don't understand why this seems to be lacking in so many people. I don't want to hurt somebody else. That bothers me to think that I could have it and don't know it and pass it on. Now, I have an older brother and sister, and I would go to maybe stop and drop something off, and then you start thinking through, did I have my mask on when I walked in? Or then, and you start thinking back, and then what if they get sick? Then they're going to call me, oh, you gave it to me. Like, I don't want that association. So I don't understand when people are walking around and they don't know if they have it or not, because again, you could be asymptomatic and you made somebody else sick and they go like, well, that's happened with the flu. It happens all the time. Yeah, but maybe that person doesn't know I gave it to them, but God knows. Did I do everything I needed to do to protect my neighbor? God knows who you gave it to. So I don't know how you sleep at night, but anyway, I don't know. Any thoughts on that from either of you?
No, that's the thing. We have not only ourselves, we have our neighbors, we have our children. We have to do our bit. We live in a community and we're a community together, and that's what we have to do when we live in one.
Right. It just concerns me that we have this whole narrative of, you can't tell me what I need to do. You're right. We are not a nation that is built on mandates and things like that. However, you need to be concerned about, if you're not concerned about my well-being as a neighbor or a worldwide citizen, be concerned about your grandmother, be concerned about your child or what could happen. I've seen so many stories of people who are anti-COVID vaccine and then their husband dies or, their children die. It does not have to be that way for the sake of you can't tell me what to do. Don't really want to try to tell you what to do. All we can do is get the information out there and tell the population, what are best practices, what is recommended, and hopefully people will continue and just think about how it is affecting not just you, but everybody around you. We're so we can't wait till the world opens back up. But what does that look like? I know for certain we do not want to go back to how it was in April of 2020.
Right. And I don't think that's impossible in considering what's going on in India, and a lot of things are cyclical. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Katasha Butler and vaccines and vaccinations and where we are and where we're going with them when we come back.
During the COVID-19 emergency, community action agencies are open and here to ensure the well-being of families across the country. For over 50 years, we've been delivering life-changing services, solutions, and stability.
Serving Boone, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion counties, be sure to visit our website to learn about employment and education opportunities, food, housing, transportation assistance, and more. Apply today by calling 317-396-1800.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
And we're back here on COVID-19 recovery, and we're talking to Dr. Katasha Butler, who is a doctor of pharmacy at Eskenazi Health. She's a medication use and regulatory compliance coordinator, and we've been talking about vaccines. Getting it? I have mine. What about you, Margot?
Oh, absolutely. I've had mine.
So we're fully vaccinated. And but the question is, Dr. Butler, if you have been vaccinated, can you get COVID-19? I mean, what does it really mean to be vaccinated? What are the benefits?
Right. So, yes, there are cases where people are contracting COVID after being vaccinated. There are many factors into play with that. But the distinction is what's important to note is that being vaccinated doesn't mean you may never contract the virus. You may get the virus and have no symptoms. You may contract COVID and it may feel like a mild flu or maybe even a severe flu. What the vaccination will do is keep you from being hospitalized 9 times out of 10. Of course, there's always outliers, and a lot of time when you are trying to, debunk math and science, you want people point to those 0.01 cases that look, they got it after vaccination, or look at this. But again, people were dying, contracting this virus. We were running out of ventilators. We don't want to go back to that. I'd rather feel like I have a mild to severe flu than having to go to the hospital and can't vent, have to be vented and things like that. I've heard people who have survived hospitalization and how they talk about that disease. And I mean, people was like, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Just feeling like you're drowning in your own fluids and you can't breathe for weeks. And then the symptoms persist even after, you have recovered. And so if I only needed to take a 2 series or now even a 1 series vaccination, so I don't have to go through that, then I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. And it's really scary. You talk about, it's like smothering to death or drowning is what people are going through here, and especially over in India with the lack of supplies and the vaccine and oxygen. It's just, I can't even imagine. Over 4,500 people dying per day.
Right. And then the long-term effects, and it's just not like fatigue and respiratory. You can have like neurological effects, motor effects. I mean, it affects your whole body. People have kidneys that are shut down. They are on dialysis for the rest of their life after it. There's just so many unknowns. You just don't even want to have to deal with that, especially if you can get a free COVID vaccination.
Right. Okay. And while we're talking about vaccinations, I want to remind folks, you can go to ourshot.in.gov.
Oh, 211, call them.
Yeah.
They're amazing folks. Then they walked us through it. As 2 old people, no problem. They made the appointments, they did everything for us, and we just showed up. So
right. And we are still definitely vaccinating every day at Eskenazi until the end of this month. Then we will go down to an abbreviated schedule for the month of June, but we are still taking people every day at Eskenazi.
Okay, that's good to know, and thank you for putting that out there. So, what about once you are vaccinated? When do you start being protected? Because we had a lady on the show, Cynthia Bates, who owns the Jewel Event Center here in Indianapolis. She got the shot. You know Cynthia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I don't know if you know her story, but she was vaccinated, and then she had some side effects. Maybe the next day, was it?
a few hours.
A few hours, she started coming down with symptoms, and then it turns out, she had COVID-19. So we were questioning, okay, did she have it when she got the shot? There's the possibility, or even though you had the shot, when are you actually protected?
Right. She most likely in those instances, she probably already had it. There is no way that you can manifest with COVID like a couple hours after you get the vaccination. And side effects from the vaccination may sometimes mirror a very mild case of COVID, like the flu-like symptoms. And so you are fully protected 3 weeks after your second shot, or in the case of the J&J vaccine, which is on one shot, at least 3 weeks.
Okay. But on the two
But
shot,
we would still recommend, you're still masking up, still using standard hygiene, personal hygiene, making sure that you're washing hands, not touching everything, disinfecting surfaces, keeping on your mask.
yeah, because I can't imagine anybody just want to go back to being nasty. What you gonna do about that? I mean, we don't call it a mandate, but that advice to wash your hands, we gonna fight that one too. Okay, I'm not gonna wear my mask, and I ain't washing my hands no more either. Well, you just go right on with your little nasty self. I'm sorry, I just had to put that out there. So, okay.
Yeah, it really highlighted like how many I've been working in healthcare and in the hospital for so long. You don't even realize how many people do not wash hands.
Right. It's scary. But I think this experience has taught people to do things more consistently, more regularly, or even when I'm talking to another individual, like, why did I have to be all up in their faces anyway? What's wrong with 3 feet anyway? In fact, I have felt that, we all know somebody that will get right up in your face and talk. Y'all know, somebody, right? Mary Sue, and she gets up in your face and you're like, I don't, COVID or not, I don't want you in my face. So it's not a bad idea that we create new, etiquette, interaction etiquette. No?
Boundaries?
Boundaries, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I learned that in college. You have a thing called personal space. People who invade your personal space. So anyway, I just think these are good things.
They're all good things.
They're all good things. So how do you think we should reach those who have not been vaccinated or refuse to be? I don't know. Any thoughts on that from your end of those who actually issue the vaccinations?
Right. So, what we are encouraging people to do right now is what we do know is that a lot of people have missed their primary care. So right in the midst of the pandemic, everything was shut down, visitation to hospitals were shut down. Limited clinic hours, you weren't doing elective procedures. A lot of people just missed out on their general wellness, primary care, childhood vaccination. So we want you to return to that. Please take care of your general health. And during that time, that is when we are talking to patients about the COVID vaccine. So at Eskenazi, we're rolling it out where you will be able to get the vaccine at your primary care visit, if that's what you choose. Anybody coming to the emergency department or talk to about the COVID vaccination, we're offering it there. And I'm sure we're not the only system that is doing that, but trying to reach these people, when they are coming to talk and take care of their other conditions, your general diabetes, high blood pressure, MS, any, their regular healthcare issues. And so that's one way to outreach. I do know a lot of employers are going to make this mandatory. So if you work and you want to continue to work, that probably will be coming down the pike. Schools, if you want your child to be in in-person school and not continue virtually, you probably are going to have to get vaccinated. And so, of course, there's religious exemptions and things like that. But I believe the further we go along, this COVID vaccination is going to go the way of our flu vaccination, where it is something we're doing every year. Depending on where you work, you're going to have to do it. And it's going to be standard and par for the course. I don't know what the rollout of pertussis vaccination looked like, long time ago. Was there this hysteria? Was there, all of these myths? Did they have to be debunked? We don't know what that looked like. And so maybe this is just the standard course of things and it will settle down. And then 10 years from now, coronavirus vaccination will be par for the course. And so, this is all new information. We're a little over 15 months into this. And so there's just a lot to be seen. Organizations are getting real creative taking a vaccine mobile out into rural areas. People who can't get in and out, have transportation issues. If you have transportation issues, you can get transportation, especially if you're a Medicaid patient. They will pick you up and take you to where you need to go. So, we're still, it seems like we've been in this forever, but it's really still kind of new and still developing. And who knows, how this will play out in the near future.
If I could ask you, you're talking about the rollouts and how we could actually get into those rural areas. How do we get the kids vaccinated, and how do we persuade the parents that this is a safe and right and good thing to do?
Right. I just say you have to appeal to people's common sense, what's best for your child. You don't want them to have negative outcomes. Do you want them to go to school? Because I do believe most schools are going to start requiring it. And you have to talk to the parent because they're the ones making the decisions for the kids. And so just engaging the parent, always being available to ask questions, not fear mongering, not trying to make them do something, understanding their perspective or why they are concerned about it. Because, there may be valid reason for concern, but just being compassionate and making sure that you're giving them all the information that they can use to make the best decision for them and their children.
And I think too, we've spoken about this a lot on and off the air, is we in information overload. How do we streamline it all into what makes sense for you personally and what is just not true?
Yeah, I think that's a personal decision. Like I said earlier, with the advent of the internet, you just have exposure to whatever you want. And you have to have a personal responsibility for yourself to not overconsume information that you don't know to be factual or accurate. Sometimes you just have to tune stuff out. I have friends on my Facebook, they love to talk about the vaccine and why they can and you shouldn't. I don't even engage because at some point you just have to what's the point? I'm never going to convince you.
Right.
I don't believe anything that you're putting out about it. I'm coming from a scientific and medical background. I know what I know to be true. And so sometimes you just have to self-edit and take that personal responsibility because there's so much information available at your fingertips and it may or may not be correct.
There you go. Well,
Wonderful.
we're just about out of time, Dr. Butler, but we thank you so much for coming on. And again, for folks to get your shot, ourshot.in.gov.
And 211.
Okay.
That's the one that I did.
And of
it
course,
works.
Eskenazi is also offering the shot. So I would take you to go to your website or go to even these sites.
They can get to us from 211.
Okay.
They can get to us from ourshot.gov. If they make an appointment with their primary care provider, they are going to visit that when they come in for their appointments. And so we love to take care of you.
We appreciate you taking care of us today, Dr. Katasha Butler. Thanks so much for joining us on the COVID-19 recovery.